Be another one in 3 weeks, won't there? That's the reality. Just be another 3 weeks.
I assume that, but because you've got quite a few in Europe now sort of easing the lockdown, they might just ease some of them. I'm not sure schools will go back, but I think they might ease some.
I don't see how it works unless you've either got a vaccine or comprehensive testing.
I was reading about Germany's easing up this morning, and it's not anything we'd recognise as easing up. It's basically saying if you're a small shop or business and can maintain social distancing, and people can't work from home, feel free to reopen.
Wonderful.
You know, and I think we've all got used now, or most people have got used to the fact that this is quite a dangerous thing, and we've all become very risk adverse. So, if a local shop opens, if it's not something that I desperately need, I'm not going to go browsing because there's no point. I think I've said, I volunteered last week to do the weekly massive food shop, and I was getting really quite pissed off with people going around Sainsbury's and get away from
Yes.
Yeah. It's not nice, is it?
Brings it a little bit, doesn't it, Mark, in terms of it'll mean more to you than everyone else. I'm told that Walton Hall Gardens is closed, just down the road to us, because it's been set up as a temporary mortuary for Cheshire.
Absolutely, because it's opposite the crematorium. We walked past it yesterday on yesterday's.
Oh, yes.
And then came back, and they've now got sort of security guards on the entrance to Walton Hall to stop people going in to have a look at the mortuary or have a sneaky around.
The other thing is just looking at recognising that this could well go on for another year. And what does that mean for what we all do? Well, one of the things that I do, as you all know, which is about 60% of my time pricing training, I cannot see that happening again for at least a year. I cannot see 15 people putting themselves in a room with each other for long periods of time absent a vaccine. I just can't see it.
Do you think you can do it remotely though, Nigel? Because I know the MBL seminars courses that I do, the ones face-to-face have been cancelled, but they're asking me whether I can do them remotely with Learn Live. And that, I think I might be able to do some of them remotely like that.
But potentially, Howard, the answer must be yes. I'm delivering an hour's webinar this Friday, so I'll kind of see how. But there are two aspects to this. There's not just the safety aspect. A lot of my law firm clients said to me only the other day, it's not just that, Nigel. How many law firms are going to think of pricing training as anything other than an unaffordable luxury in the months of the recession/depression that's ahead of us?
I'd argue completely the opposite. Isn't now the time to think about pricing training when everything's going to be so difficult?
You're absolutely right, Howard, and that's the standard line I take, which is when things are tough, surely being more competitive is more of an imperative than ever. But not too many law firm partners think like that.
No.
The other thing I do, and I had 3 strategy days, partner away days, partner retreats booked in for end of March, early April. Of course, they've all gone.
There will come a point, I suspect, at the end of the summer when people are going to have to do some really serious thinking about what their firm's going to look like in future. Because I don't know about you, I thought a couple of weeks ago, Nigel, that you were erring on the side of pessimism, but every time I do a forecast now, it's coming out worse than I expected. So I'm not sure what the situation is going to be by the end of the summer.
I think we'll have a better idea when the end of April figures are poured over and circulated. Most firms that I've come across, and that's not a big sample, it's a handful, reported end of March figures that were surprisingly good, 80+% of budget. And I don't know if you've caught up with this in any way, but my colleague in another network, the Law Consultancy Network, Simon McCrum, is publishing a weekly snapshot of barometers of confidence, cash flow, etc., etc. And it's a very, very small sample again. I think he's got something like a dozen, 6 to 60 firms participating. But again, it's a quick read and very worth doing, I think. You can access it through the Legal Futures magazine.
There was sort of stuff going on that was going to continue. April will be interesting. May will be very interesting. And presumably you're doing your cash flow forecast based on when it might begin to pick up again. And
I think there's a danger of a false sense of security. And I've spent a chunk of today on a very long call with a firm. March was excellent, and March has been excellent for a lot of people. Their cash flow forecast for the next 3 or 4 months is actually quite bearable. But if you look at the period up to July, it's bearable because there's a VAT deferral till next March, which will save them several $100,000. And there's a self-assessment tax deferral from July to next January, which will save them several hundred more thousands.
That's just a deferral. It's still going to need to be paid.
Yeah, but what they're looking at, the partners first look at a cash flow forecast, is, next 6 months, there's a bit of a hit, but it's bearable. And it's not a huge firm, but it's a thick end of £1 million hit in the first quarter of next year.
Yeah, that's been my concern throughout, is that if you defer your tax bills, they're going to come back and bite you next January, February, March. And I can't, if you don't even pay it, put it into a separate bank account to keep it on one side, which is a client I was talking to this morning is doing. They're putting it into a separate VAT and PAYE saving account so that they can use it or meet the bills in January next year.
Well, so I think we said a couple of weeks ago, I do the accounts for BB, and when someone pays us £1,200, I put £200 into the tax account, so there is always money there, and our VAT is going to be due at the beginning of June, and we're planning to pay it because the money is there. And what's the point in not paying it? Because if we live off it, we've then got a bigger problem in a year's time.
Absolutely.
So again, I've got money set aside for my July tax bill, which I propose to pay.
You're in a relatively fortunate position there. I mean, I'm talking to a range of people turning over between £5 and £10 million turnover, and the amount of hit that they're looking at from the fall off in demand is 2, 3, maybe even more £1 million. Which they simply cannot offset their staff costs by furloughing to anything that's going to make a material dent in that. And nobody knows whether it's going to be 1, 2, 3 or £4 million of a hit, because we don't know how long this is going to go on for. So unlike Howard's client, I think their view is that they will hold on to every penny at the moment. They know that dreadful day will come. They don't want to be leaving themselves exposed unnecessarily early. The government loan scheme seems to provide a very good backstop for that. Acknowledging that it will have to be paid back.
It does, but you've got to get your hands on it, and very few can actually get their hands on it.
I'm seeing those coming through now.
Are you? Right.
Yeah.
Has anyone's clients applied for the furloughing money?
I was talking to somebody this morning who was still waiting for their authorization slip in the post so they could actually get on with their appropriate password, and had come across a technical glitch associated with how you deal with some sort of deduction, and didn't know how to deal with it. Right, we've probably got to the end of that, haven't we?
Well,
I think it's goodbye and it's not weekend, it's have a good week. Nice.
Keep safe, everyone.
All right. Cheers.
Yeah, bye.
Cheers.